Hello friends, in today's video I'll show you how to stay organized inside clay.com, and specifically I'm going to show you the 7 lowest hanging fruits that you can implement today in order to make your life a lot better inside of the clay sheets. So first of all, we're going to talk about how to save prompts inside of clay, and this feature a lot of people are aware of but is still worth noting. So whenever we click on add enrichments and whenever we use a specific enrichment, for example OpenAI, what you can do whenever you use the enrichment is in the top right hand corner, you can click on Save as Template and just give it a quick name over here. And next time that you want to recycle and reuse that exact enrichment, all you need to do is click on Browse Templates, and voila, you have all of the historical templates that you used before at your fingertips. And all you would need to do is just click on that, and it will straight away just require the input. And then you can basically run this enrichment without having to copy and paste the prompt there straight away. Now, most of you think, oh, this is common sense, but wait until I show you this. Did you know that you can do the exact same thing for other enrichments as well? So for example, if you have a specific ICP for finding contacts at company, for example, in this case, you can just literally click on Browse Templates here, and voila, I can just click on Find Unlock Clay ICP. If I click on that, straight away, it will basically it will straight away filter for the jobs that I saved last time, so that I basically don't need every time to input job by job for each individual client, for example. So once again, you can do this with every individual enrichment inside of Clay. So make sure to press that Save as Template button, make sure to give it a recognizable name, and it will make it infinitely scalable inside of Clay for you. Now, secondly, needless to say, you can also use folders inside of Clay, and for those of you that are completely see right now, I recommend that this is what your folders look like. So I just basically have a folder for one of my businesses, which is Unlock Clay. I have one for templates, one for clients, and then if you click on, let's say, in progress, it will just basically give you a bunch of the tables that I'm building right now. But this way, it's clean at the very least when you enter the Clay sheets. So I recommend you just basically tidying this up so you have a couple of recognizable folders, so it's very easy to follow. Next up, we're going to talk about how to use templates inside of Clay, because I'm sure you can resonate to the challenge of always being shared this funny looking URL link. So people will send you a URL link to the table saying, hey, here is how I do this cool thing using this Clay table. And then you're wondering, okay, but how the hell do I actually use this as a template? So let me show you. All you need to do is click on Create Workbook using the template. So you'll come out in the top right corner. Then select the workspace. And as soon as you click on Create Workbook, this will automatically copy and paste the backbone of the template into your specific Clay workspace. So essentially, you can see both tables being added over here. And once again, you can see that this is completely empty. But the magic is, if you input the right data into this table, it will run automatically using the same logic as the person that built it initially used to build it. So the way we actually import data is to click on Actions, import, and then you will just import from CSV. In this case, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown example of like a campaign that I built yesterday. And we're going to add to current table, and we're just going to match the variables. So this is very important because the inputs inside of the Clay table need to be correct in order for you to be able to use someone else's template. So in this case, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of this. This is the location, and let's say this is the type. And assuming all the variables are fine, you can save and don't run just so that you can check for yourself. And this brings me very nicely onto one of the other points that I wanted to mention throughout this video, which you can see over here, is to be able to run 1 to 2 rows first before running the rest. So what I mean by that is you should not be running all of the rows because it's too risky. So coming back to this template, I'm just going to click on play over here, and it will basically run 2 or 3 rows for me first so that I can see how that goes down. Well, it looks like I need to top up my quota, but give me a second. Now we are rerunning the table, and you can see that I haven't really changed anything apart from just making sure that my OpenAI connection is correct. And straight away, this entire table runs from the template that we just used from someone else, right? And you can see basically like all of this chaos unfolds, it finds all of the names, it does all that cool stuff. So essentially, at that moment in time, once again, we're stuck here because my OpenAI API is showing that I ran out of credits, but you get the idea, right? So as long as you use the template, as long as you input the right kind of variables in order to run this table, you're golden. That's how you use these tables in order to build a scalable Clay infrastructure. One thing that you would have noticed throughout this whole demo is that every single column is labeled to absolute perfection. So I very much encourage you to every time label the steps that you're taking. So every enrichment is a new step. Otherwise, I promise you, when you get to building 2 or 3 clay tables within the same workbook, you would forget what it is. You would forget the logic that you used. And if you have a colleague that you want to take over this table, they'll be confused and they'll spend absolute hours in pure pain and misery trying to figure out what enrichment you used and why you didn't label the columns. So make sure to label the columns religiously. Otherwise, quite frankly, a lot of the time I just don't like working with anyone that basically does not label columns, because for me it's just the same way as you just having like an untidy house, right? I just don't understand how that's completely possible. That's that. And then next up, we need to basically talk about labeling the inputs. And what I mean by that is, if you are looking to build a scalable clay infrastructure whereby you can use the same template on rinse and repeat for yourself or for your own clients, what you need to do is having a bunch of SOP templates. In very simple terms, if you just take any one of those as an example, let's say this is a template over here for scraping Google Maps. All we need to do is just make sure that the inputs are consistent. So the inputs over here is just input 1, which is just the location. And as long as this input is fine, the rest will run itself. So it's super, super important whenever you build any sort of template to label the inputs very clearly so you can basically map them to whatever you're importing. So for example, here we know that we need to know the first name, the last name, the full name, the job title. And if we have all of this data, the table will run itself. So make sure to label your inputs to absolute perfection if you want to reuse this table all over again. Now, one thing worth noting, whenever you use templates, you should ideally not, so with enrichments, make sure that you do not auto update them. So if you click on edit column over here, for example, that this auto update is off, because otherwise it will basically run all the actions, and sometimes you just want to switch it on manually afterwards so that you don't burn through a bunch of credits when the table's not working properly. So in a nutshell, these are my top 6 tips, and then the 7th tip, which I'll just give you very briefly, is about having a sense of campaign strategy. And once again, I'm not going to talk about this in too much detail because this is something that I teach inside of our Unlock Clay course, which is still only £100, right? But essentially, 99% of people lose the game inside of Clay, so they lose the plot before even entering the Clay table. Because what they end up doing is they just get into Clay, they start spending a bunch of credits, and before they know it, they've wasted a bunch of time trying to build a Clay table. Instead, what I recommend is 4 steps before you entering the Clay table. And the first step is to identify the 3 Ps. So what's the persona that you're sending this outreach to? What's the pain points that you're solving? And what's the product that you're selling? Based on that, you will identify the lead source. So where the hell are you getting the data from? Are you getting it from scraping a website? Are you getting it from, I don't know, like Apollo, for example? After that, you map out the total addressable market. Assuming that you're using Clay for outbound purposes, you need to map out what your total addressable market is. Based on that, you need to calculate the outreach volumes. And only as a final step, after you drafted the email template, only at that point do I believe you deserve to start building a Clay table from scratch. And this is just my 2 cents on how you can basically stay organized inside of clay.com. So if you found this useful, you would absolutely love hanging out with me over the course of the next 3 to 5 hours inside of Unlock Clay. Once again, no pressure to join. We've got plenty of students who are absolutely delighted and happy. You don't need to be technical. You don't need to be absolutely obsessed with Clay just yet. I will teach you everything you need to know from start to finish when it comes to clay.com. And if I don't, you get your money back, and it's only £100. So go check it out. Unlockclay.com is the website. If you want to read a bunch of fancy testimonials, go read them over here. And all I can tell you is that it's a lot better than any other course out there. And I'm not even scared to say that because I've done other courses, and in my opinion, they're nowhere close to being as good as that. Anyways, I'll see you on the inside of Unlock Clay. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do give it a thumbs up, give it a like, or subscribe to this lovely viral channel. All the best in the meantime.